Hi, welcome back to Why Such a Fast podcast. We have James from UpTech again with us. Hello, James. Welcome back.
Hi, Christina. Thanks for having me back.
Well, good to have you here. So today, James, we're going to be talking about GDPR policies and IT policies, because obviously there is a very difference between the two. So from a GDPR perspective, there is quite a few of them that a business needs to have. The GDPR itself doesn't actually tell you what those policies are. As a minimum, you should have, data protection policy that sort of tells your member of staff how you as an organization want them to use that data, and therefore you want them to make sure that the data is being processed in line with the GDPR rules and principles. You will need a security policy, which includes not just the technical aspect of it, the cybersecurity, etc., but also the physical security. Could be the building. What about data that it's in paper format? It could include, for example, provision with regards to locking the screens when you're moving away from your desk, disposal of the equipment, disposal of confidential waste. You might want to also have additional policy to a sub-policy to the security policy, like clear desks policy, a password policy. If you're allowing your employees or member of staff to work from home, you might want a working from home policy that basically states that a secure VPN needs to be utilized when accessing the infrastructure of the organization. You will also need retention policies, as we discussed in our previous episode. We also have records management policy, and also cookie policy. So as a minimum, those are the policies from a GDPR perspective that any organization will need. Now, IT policies are quite different, so I'll leave that to you, James, to explain.
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, there's always a little bit of crossover on some of these, like password policies and the work from home policies, but they're very different. The names are the same, but the content is often quite different, because of the IT is going to be very granular and look at it in a very different way. And some of the ones that we look at and discuss with clients is things like acceptable use policies. So what is an acceptable use of your company's IT infrastructure, for the computer, the network, the devices, and having those guidelines in place as to what people should and shouldn't be using that infrastructure for. The security policy from an IT perspective is very much about the cyber side of things. And there's then, from that security policy, that's when you then, that again, similar to GDPR, it breaks down into other things. So password policies, looking at the number of characters, what are the rules and regulations in regards to, can that be a word? Can it not be a word? When do you change it? Yeah. Now, that itself has been made very simple for us because of Cyber Essentials. Cyber Essentials, the rules are out there for us all to have and all to see. And unless you've got a 20 plus character, non-sequential for numbers, non-word based, complex password, then you need to change it every 30 to 60 days. It's very simple. So most people need to change their passwords every 30 to 60 days because most of us cannot remember that kind of complex password. But also that password policy will include things about multi-factor authentication. Make sure that that's in place and you have it on all the systems that allow that. We will have data classification and handling policies in regards to what comes in via email, what happens with documents that are sent in, those kind of things. Bring your own policies. Bring your own device policy. So there is a GDPR side of that, but there is also a very much an IT base in regards to the security side of things and what that device is going to be used for and how it's being secured. There's the remote work and telecommunicating policy. So that's the work from home one. Again, IT makes the wording slightly more complicated, but we're looking at again that remote access, the secure connections, how you're connecting to the data, and maintaining security on that device whilst and make sure the actual person's being productive.
Yes. And it's really interesting because in the working from home policy, obviously from the art perspective, very much focusing on the technology side, the security, the technical security. While from a GDPR perspective, yes, obviously it does mention the secure VPN, but also sort of mention things like having a lockable cabinet that is also fireproof, making sure that other members of the household cannot access the data. So it's a different angle to it.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's where we both work hand in hand on this, because you can do all it. I've seen it done all in one policy, and there's no harm in that, because you can cover off all the bases. We also then get into the backup and data recovery policies. Yes. What does that look like? And then again, somewhere where we would definitely be working together would be somewhere in regards to your incident response policy. What's your plan? What's the policy? What do you do? How are you recovering from that? All of those things, and there is definitely a hand-in-hand side of that. And and all of these are standard things. You can get into your social media and online presence policy, what people putting out there from a personal point of view on social media, which might attract people's attention to the business. You've got your mobile device management policies. Again, that kind of goes slightly hand in hand with bring your own device as well. But then look at your software and also your vendors and third-party management. So there's a lot of different policies where there is either crossover or there's a lot of synergy between the two.
Yes, and I think they complement each other and strengthen each other. Absolutely. So yeah, I think that's quite an extensive list that we both covered.
Yeah.
I think we should leave it like that, and I'll see you next time.
See you next time, Christina. Cheers then.
Bye.
Bye.